Good evening or good morning. Um, Welcome to day 5 of the International Great Black Read Aloud Day. My name is LD Robinson, and I am delighted to share with you on this, our day 5. It's pretty late in the day of day 5, but we are determined to get there before midnight Eastern Standard Time. It is day 5, and today is wellness. And if you don't know about the International Great Black Read Aloud Day, we are here giving voice to words written by Black people all around the world. And so we choose selections from very different genres each day, and we read a selection by an author who is Black. And it is one of the ways that we, along with our partner at Fresh Book Festival, we spread the word about literacy and how vast and varied the world of Black literature is. We don't often see that. And so that's one of the things that we want to share with the world, is that there is literature written by authors all around the world, um, and all across the African diaspora. And so we are very excited about it. This is our third year. And so if you haven't, we want you to subscribe. Go over and subscribe to our website at greatblackreadaloudday.org and check out our reading list. We add our selections at the end of every reading. And so if you'd like to join us, we certainly invite you to come along and join us for the Black Read Aloud. Okay, today is wellness, and our selection for today is Checking In by Michelle Williams. You can see that. And we will read a couple of selections from the book. And we will start with the introduction. And our selection, as I said, is Checking In. Have you ever been in a room that was completely dark? Not a ray of light or shred of sunshine to grab onto? Even if it's just for a handful of breaths. Darkness is an otherworldly experience, isn't it? It feels off, a little panicky. Your hand searches the wall for the light switch with a heck of a lot more urgency than when you can see. You may be able to take a few steps in any direction, but even the familiar becomes a stranger in the dark. In July 2018, I was swimming in a sea of darkness. And I mean, it was darker than dark. I was untethered, 100 miles out into the middle of the ocean on a moonless night with no sign of help. But this wasn't physical darkness. No flip of a switch or pull of a string was going to bathe me in the relief of light, because I was in emotional and spiritual darkness, buried beneath the bricks of anxiety and depression. What songs will they sing at my funeral? I wondered, already judging their choices. I just knew that this time the darkness was going to swallow me right up. I found myself imagining the entire service, fantasizing about it, debating which scripture should be read. I didn't list any family members as singing or speaking because I thought that'd be too much to ask. I went as far as writing down my requests. 1. All white flowers. 2. Invitation only. 3. Private open casket viewing prior to service. And 4. Closed casket service, because I don't want people to be trying to take my picture to send to TMZ or some other nonsense. Looking back, that's a pretty solid list, actually. I'd stick to it today. And like everybody who's ever thought about their funeral, I wondered who showed up. Who'd show up? Which of my friends, family, and which of my exes would sit on pews and mourn the loss of me? I joke with you, but I was dead serious. While I do think everybody should give their loved ones an idea of how they like to be celebrated after they are gone, my thoughts had gotten too graphic. My mind had gone too far. I didn't have an exact plan for how I'd end my life, but those thoughts were quickly forming. And I was so ashamed. I'd been talking publicly about my struggle with mental illness for more than a decade, but nobody knew how bad it had really gotten. My platform was about the depression I'd had in the past. I had stopped talking about what was going I had stopped talking about what was going on with me, current me, now me. I had stopped checking in So I was preparing to check out. Somehow, only God can explain how, I picked up the phone. I don't feel safe. Then I said the strongest three words a person can say: I need help. And that's the short version of how I ended up checking into a mental health facility under a false name, with my lip hair grown out to my chin and smelling like I hadn't showered in days, because I hadn't. I checked myself into a hospital because I wasn't checking in anywhere else. I wasn't checking in with me. I wasn't checking in with God. And I sure wasn't checking in with others. Since then, I've been passionate about sharing what I've learned, what I'm still learning about the importance of checking in. Now, Michelle, you're thinking, what are you even talking about? Checking in? Is that some clinical term or recovery phrase? Maybe. I don't know. All I can tell you is that I had to come up with some sort of process that would keep me healthy for the days when I struggle more than others and for the long term. Here's how I see it. In no particular order, all three of these practices work together for the best result, the best you. Check in with God. I know what you're thinking. Well, duh. We should always be checking in with God. But I'm not talking about the on the go prayers we pray in a knee jerk way, though there's nothing wrong with those. I'm talking about carving out consistent time to be gut level with God. Because until we start talking to Him regularly in an honest, sometimes R rated way, our check ins with God will be on the surface. When we can look at ourselves and say, God, I acknowledge we've got a hot mess over here, but I know you can help fix it, then we will see life change and freedom. Check in with you. Sometimes this is the hardest habit to get into. We're busy, we're tired, and when we get a minute alone, we want to check out, not in. But this step matters because we can't be honest with anybody until we've been honest with ourselves. We have to get in the habit of looking in the mirror and asking tough questions. Heck, take yourself on a date. And I'm going to pause right there for a check. Okay. Put it on the family calendar, and we've got to be kind to ourselves. Some of us are walking around cussing ourselves up one side and down the other. We wouldn't be friends with somebody who talked to us the way that we talk to ourselves. Check in with others. This one has become so incredibly important to me. If it weren't for that person picking up the phone that summer day in 2018, I literally don't know what would have happened to me. The people I checked in with the night before I checked myself into a mental health center were a pastor friend and his wife. I had cultivated a relationship with them over time that made me feel safe enough to tell them the truth, the whole truth. They prayed with me, they said they loved me and didn't judge me. They told me that if I needed help, I should get it, and fast. That conversation gave me the courage to make another call to my therapist. She helped me find a center to check into. Checking in with those people may have saved my life. We need honest, real, vulnerable relationships, and we can't expect them to fall into our laps. We have to nurture and grow them, and sometimes we have to seek out people whose lives look the way we'd like ours to look. You usually hear about pursuing people in dating, but the same goes for friendships. Healthy people can add value to our lives, and we shouldn't be afraid to pursue those people as friends. Then, in turn, we can add that same value to others' lives. These three practices don't come naturally to me. I'm a very private person and don't open up to anyone easily. And even though I still have a ways to go, I'm more content, more confident, more me, and freer than ever. I pray this book you're holding reveals to you the grueling lessons I had to learn about staying checked in with myself, with God, and with a handful of healthy people who love me enough to tell me the truth. Can we consider this book one long check in? If so, keep reading because I'm holding nothing back. And then we're going to switch over to um, another chapter. Let's go back to what ifs. There is one good thing what ifs can do for us if we leverage them the right way. If we can allow our what ifs to inform us and not torture us, we can actually gain wisdom from that nagging feeling that creeps into our minds every time the past comes up. So, what if I had given God a year to prepare my insides, my heart, my spirit, my mind before dating Chad? What if I had taken a break after the hospital? What if I hadn't overcommitted my time with the reality show and the Broadway show? Oh, and threw in planning a wedding Chad and I had both waited half our lives for. You know, Chad and I were in survival mode after my hospitalization. What if we'd gone away, just gotten out of town together? We still loved each other. He didn't want to leave me. I didn't want to leave him. I don't know, but in the future, when I think I'm hearing the voice of God, I will do everything I can to check in with that thought before dismissing it. I will do my due diligence and share that feeling and thought with someone else. I'll run it by them, by someone who loves God and has a life that reflects a life I want in the future. I'll check in. Instead of letting the what ifs choke the life out of me, I'm learning to use them as a lesson to prevent me from making similar choices that lead to similar regret. See, there are people who say they have no regrets in life. They also say regrets are what made them who they are. And I see so much truth in that. But at the same time, I want to become a person who learns lessons without regret. I want to be the kind of person who uses the wisdom God offers us daily to prevent future regret. And yes, I know I can't live the rest of my life without any regret, but I can do a few things to minimize the potential for hurt and pain. For one, I've learned not to let myself get so busy again. What if I hadn't kept so busy that I traded in my mental health for a check in a box that I only cared about? But that's a habit I got into without even knowing it. My entire life, I've been busy, just doing stuff, singing in the choir, serving in the church, reading the Bible, practicing certain harmonies, making that daily phone call to my parents, going to the gym, wiping down all the counters, wiping them down again. I think being busy is something we can all relate to. Everywhere I go, people look busy. I was in the drive through at Hardee's getting a biscuit the other day, and there was a woman in the parking lot putting on mascara, eating, talking on the phone, and feeding her toddler. I wanted to step out of my car and salute this lady. Life is stressful, not just work, family, the future, and our relationships. It's all stressful. Don't you feel this? You look on Instagram and see someone's story. They done prayed, worked out, enjoyed a breathtaking sunrise, juiced, made a gorgeous poached egg, cleaned out their closet, donated to charity, checked off their to-do list, contoured their face, and met girlfriends for brunch, and you ain't even got the sleep crust out from the corner of your eyes yet. You see that and you're automatically stressed out. I should be doing more. I should be accomplishing more. I should at least pretend I've got it together. Do you ever feel like your boss thinks she's the only person in your life who is allowed to need something from you? Or that your kids think you just sit around all day and watch television and eat bonbons? Do you get those passive aggressive texts from family members? Saw your sister yesterday. Can't remember the last time I saw you. What do you look like again? Excuse me 1 second. I'm going to turn down those notifications and make life a little easier. Sorry about that. Okay. Sorry about that. I am going to pause here and make an adjustment. And that'll take care of that. Sorry about that. Saw your sister yesterday. We'll go back. Do you ever get those passive aggressive texts from family members? Saw your sister yesterday. Can't remember the last time I saw you. What do you look like again? Or how about the questions? If there's a life milestone you've yet to complete, that's all anybody wants to know about. When you going to bring a man home? When y'all going to get engaged? When's the wedding? Aren't y'all ready for a baby? Have you not bought a house yet? You're still working there? I thought for sure you'd be done with that place by now. It's like, dang, Aunt Tanya, I just came over for some banana pudding, not an FBI worthy interrogation. And you walk away just feeling so completely stressed out. I'm not doing enough, so I must not be enough. I feel like I'm doing the best I can, but obviously failing. But I'm obviously failing. I have to find a way to do more, to be more. So we're already busy just doing life, just keeping all the plates spinning, right? Then we get on social media, go to work, or see our family, and we automatically feel like we're not doing enough. So we get even busier. After a while, that level of living is going to take its toll, just like it did on me. We can't run on constant mental and emotional overload and not expect it to affect our hearts in a real and lasting way. The thing is, the impact of business and a high demand life isn't always clear. We're probably too busy to notice. But if you were to check in with how you're doing balancing your current schedule, you might be like I was. You're constantly irritated or on edge. You can't stop feeling like something bad is about to happen. You have trouble sleeping or staying asleep, or you sleep way too much and never feel rested. You either can't eat at all or you can't stop eating. You feel like you can't enjoy anything because you're worried what's going to happen next. You feel panicked a lot and can't pinpoint why. You feel like a big disappointment because as much as you want to do it all and do it well, you aren't. You can't. It's rough, right? These are all the signs of real anxiety. Just one is difficult, but a combination of them all, it's a wonder we aren't all walking around in straitjackets. Instead, we tell ourselves that's just how it is. We tell ourselves that we are the only ones who are struggling, the only ones who can't get it together. And we will finish with this. Instead of checking in with my own list, I've learned to first check in with God's. Instead of saying, how am I doing today in life? Who is happy with me? Who is mad at me? What have I done career wise? What's my relationship status? It's okay, let's start with the baseline of what God has already accomplished on my behalf. I'll even write it down what God's list is for me, even if it's hard, even if it's annoying to me. Like, yeah, I'm redeemed, but I still ain't got a husband. I'll still say it. I'll remind myself of his list because it's done. It's all checked off. I'm learning to be honest. Because, sure, maybe I couldn't have predicted the way the chemicals in my brain were going to interact or how the reality show was going to play out. Maybe I couldn't have anticipated certain insecurities rearing their ugly heads time and again, but I could have opened my mouth and talked about it. I could have said something like, Chad, I don't feel like myself, or something isn't right, or even called my therapist and said, this is more than the normal anxiety and depression I'm used to feeling. I could have sent a text, a DM, an email, something. We have no reason to allow ourselves to suffer in silence. And look, I understand the hesitation. I understand not wanting friends to roll their eyes and say, here we go again. Because if that's what's holding us back, that's pride. How prideful are you going to feel rolling up to the psychiatric ward because you were too healed to have a relapse? Because let me tell you, honey, I redefined the words walk of shame heading into that hospital. I didn't even care that I looked like I just walked in fresh off a plane crash because I had to get to a true life or death situation. I will say that I never set out to be dishonest. I never came up with a master plan to hide my depression. In fact, I thought I was very openly a mess. If you spent any time around me and saw my level 10 reactions to level 1 problems, I was of the mindset that everybody pretty much knew. I thought it was obvious, but it wasn't. Not the complexity of it or the severity of it during 2018. That's because there's a difference between being transparent and being vulnerable. It's a very important difference that cost me plenty of relationships, even friendships along the way. See, I have no issues being transparent because with transparency, there's a little bit of control. You can say, Michelle, you seem a little off. Is everything okay? I'll be transparent even to say, yeah, I'm going through some stuff right now. You know it's hard, but God is good. I'll be okay. I don't risk anything when I respond that way. But when you're vulnerable, you don't have that kind of control. It's not pretty, and sometimes it doesn't feel like God is good. You know what I mean? When you're vulnerable, you don't care if your partner knows that you're frustrated. they forgot to ask how that meeting went, or that you're excited they called, or you don't care if they know you're full of fear and doubt and worry, or full of love, anticipation, and awe. I'd say the biggest difference in being transparent and being vulnerable is that when you're vulnerable, no one has to ask you the tough questions because you're offering the truth freely. Transparency is simply offering information. Vulnerability is revealing the thoughts behind your words and actions. And y'all, I know it's tough. I know checking in with anyone in a vulnerable way is hard. Like, I'm never going to be with a man and say, I just feel really insecure right now because you haven't said anything about this new way I'm doing my makeup, and that just be a breeze. Vulnerability is going to cost you a little something every time because it's human nature to hide our weaknesses. It just becomes our habit. Guarding the truth was my crutch for so long. I don't want to talk about how hard my childhood was because I don't want to hurt my parents and I don't want people to feel sorry for me. I don't want to talk about how let down I felt after Destiny's Child disbanded because I don't want to sound petty or like I'm not over it. I don't want to admit that I've been so frantic to be loved that I've chosen the wrong men because I don't want to look stupid or desperate. Being transparent was my crutch. We do this in a lot of areas, not just when it comes to being vulnerable. We get into the habit of doing things that feel good but aren't good. These are our coping mechanisms, the crutches we use instead of taking risks and checking in. These things become second nature to us, something we do without even thinking about it. For me, figuring out my crutches was a critical part of learning to check in because you can't check in until you're honest with yourself about the way you're living. And that is our reading for wellness. I think, though, I'm going to. That's it. Our selection for today has been checking in by Michelle Williams, and it is checking in how getting real about depression saved my life and can save yours. And we want to encourage you that if you need a therapist, we want to share with you a number of sites um, for therapists that are geared towards people of color. And so, whatever the recovery may be from depression, anxiety, addictions, we there are a number of sites that are available. There's therapy for Black girls, Black Therapists Rock, therapy for Black men, and also you can always search at psychologytoday.com as well. And so we want to encourage you to keep living a life, or if you're not, to get to a point where you're living a life of wellness in every area of your life. Sometimes we master certain things, but we don't master other things. And so wellness is extremely important, whole life wellness. That's what it's about. And so today has been the International Great Black Read Aloud Day, day 5, and our subject has been wellness. And our selection for today has been Checking In by Michelle Williams. And of course, we want to share with you and remind you that we partner with Fresh Book Festivals, and Fresh Book Festival is coming up this month in Daytona Beach, and we want you to be there. Yes, we do. We want you. We want you to be there and enjoy the festival with us. And so, our Fresh Book Festival is February 23rd through the 25th in Daytona Beach. Our theme is A Reading Revolution, and we are turning the world upside down by literacy. How about that? Something quite revolutionary, even in this day and age. Literacy is still very important. Many kids do not know how to read. We have adults who don't know how to read, and so we are on a mission to help literacy become a legacy in your family and in our families and in our communities all around the world. We want to remind you that literacy is indeed a legacy. And so we will see you tomorrow at an earlier time tomorrow for sure. But we will see you on day 6 of the International Great Black Read Aloud Day. And tomorrow, our subject is raising children. It is the International Great Black Read Aloud Day 2023. And we are so happy that you have joined us. And if you aren't following us online, we want to remind you that you can follow us online at Black Read Aloud. We will see you tomorrow. Have a wonderful night. Have a wonderful day. And don't forget to write comments. We love seeing your comments and knowing that you're out there listening, and hopefully share. Share these on your timelines and on your pages and on your channels. And let's help literacy be a legacy, become a legacy, because it is a legacy. And let's keep giving voice to words written by Black people all around the world. Have a good night.